Hi there, Randy Green here. It is October 22nd, and if we do a little bit of number lineup, we will have a 22, 10, 20, 22. So of course there is something to that, which whatever that is, we will always know later on. Okay, since the last video we had on October 10th, 10/10, we had the major relooping, and I said the major because I put it out as a newsletter, well, to go around this, as always, we are catching up. So let us begin with, let's catch up, because so much has happened since the last video and the trajectory that I was on with the teachings there. Not that any of that has changed, not at all. But what has changed is the relooping. And what did the relooping do? The relooping transferred whatever was left of viable genetics on the timelines that are in what we call the zone of devastation, were transferred back to us that had the ability and the genetic configuration and the energy system configuration or architecture to hold these viable genetics. The ones that did not have the ability to hold them, but technically did have the viability rate and they did have the configuration to do so, did not get their genetics. And why is that? Because we are in, I've said that for years, but it gets more and more clear what these challenges are and the shift that we are undergoing, what the transition actually is about. There's been a lot of distortion going on. There's been a lot of factions spinning their tune and their web on their ideas of what the transition has been, trying to make it look more positive than it is, twisting the words, twisting the facts into being something that we could call a version of the truth. And as you know, from those of you who did do my transition course 1 that I made out in 2021, the ideas were there that the sun would shift into density 2, but the fact was that the sun has shifted out of density 2 and into density 1. And I do think I mentioned that somewhere, but this is again some of the distortion, some of the twisting of information that is being planted in our neural network. And that's the problem with this reality, is that they have complete access to manipulating our neural network. And just to put it in a little bit of context, right now I'm doing another Coursera.org course because I need to feed my brain with information so I can put together material for us that needs to take things a step further. And the best way is always to work with what is at hand. You work with the materials you have got, and then you transform them into what you need them to be, not as in kind of twisting them out of their original purpose and function, but adding to them, sorry about that, adding to the complexity of it so that we get the higher order to the lower order, to the frequency spectrum sciences. We add in the density higher order sciences so we get the double awareness of what we are doing. So in that course on neural marketing, they are using science to detect where consumers are responding to different symbols, to different impressions, and to different visual content, and to different auditory content, etc., how the brain operates, and then how much it's actually doing what we call subliminal coding. And there are lots of science papers out there that are confirming that people can subconsciously be affected via the use of symbols to buy certain types of goods and services, or go in specific directions when they are entering shops, and all of these things. That's what they're using the neuroscience for. And that's why it's called neuromarketing. So they are developing tools to not in that manner saying, okay, we are creating specific programs. So when you enter a shop, we will brainwash you to buy this. But they are working on, okay, what colors works the best way. There are some kind of what we call automatic response dynamics in the brain that goes with patterns, that goes with symbols, that goes with colors, that goes with motion. And then they put all of this together together to affect the consumers to buy certain services and goods when they go into the shop. So it's all in what we call the how things are looking and the interface system between the goods and the consumer, so to speak, that are being targeted in a new manner than before. Beforehand, you would say, oh, we'll do that design because it looks pretty. Today, they do this design because they know that affects the brain the most, and by that will subliminally attract attention, and by that make the consumer buy the service or the goods. And I'm putting in service here as well because we have a lot of companies out there that are selling services, including my website, and looking at, okay, what is attracting people? What's the storyline when we are marketing our product? And I work with the same idea when I do my HAL Academy website. I have used pictures, which are now cartoons, which I'm very happy with because they tell a story. Each one of these little cartoons tell a story. It's that information package you give right away instead of a lot of words. You had to describe a lot of things before, but now I just got the cartoons that are telling everything, which is so nice and neat, and not in a manner where you can say, if I could use real pictures instead, because cartoons you can put different colors in, you can vibrate the brain up in a different manner that activates a different narrative, a different schemata of ideas and emotional reaction patterns. So we are all using it. And we know it goes further up to that. It goes up to, of course, when we are talking about how the different races are affecting us with planting information in our neural network. So just to put that one in there, so you kind of understand that you are not a free person that is acting on your own free will. We have never been. And the programs that were part of the old world order were also aligned to narrow down our perception field, narrow down our understanding and processing of information, etc. So this is what we are dealing with. So I kind of got a little bit sidetracked there with the neural marketing and the brain and the double awareness. But we understand these dynamics. That's part of our journey to process the new levels of the challenges that we have ahead of us. So we are going to have a huge portion of humanity that are either under the parallel universal matrix races, which I'm not interested in focusing on at all anymore, or the dark ones, which pops in from time to time if I'm looking at some of the stuff. But that's just because they are these groups of dark ones. They go so far back. They're part of the lineages I stem from. So therefore, no matter how many times I shift, they will always be there and can gain access if they can imprint my energy field enough by different forms of interference, from where I will then get the coding from which they then can access for a shorter period of time until I clear it out. So that's an ongoing thing for those of us who are of the older lineages. We have these old affiliations, similarly as if just do your normal human awareness, your normal human life, where you have met a person in his life. This person has meant something to you, or you've been around that person for a while. You have worked with him or her as a colleague or whatever, and you have completely forgotten about that person. And then you walk down the street, and then you bump into her and or him or whatever, and you will recognize that person right away. And you will, all of the things that were already there, all the time you spent together, will just surface right away, and you will recognize, how you've been doing, and you will have all the good emotions or whatever. If it was a good experience or if it was a bad experience, doesn't matter. The emotional pattern is still there, and even though you clear it out, you cannot always get all of the levels of everything, because the emotional field often goes back to past lives, as we talked about. So this is also some of the things when we talk about the recalibration and the relooping that has happened. And I've deviated with that explanation, but it gives grounds to another level of understanding of, okay, what has shifted since the last time I made the videos and where we are now. We are constantly working to upgrade our neural network with feeding it with science, information, and the new ideas that are going on out there in the base program, because we need that to find the solutions from where we can speak a common language, from where we use the same sciences to instigate a language or terminology, from where we can work together within the base program. That is those of us who have been relooped. That's the 30% of the human population. So what did the relooping do? Has it changed reality? No, not at all. It has depleted reality, to be honest, but it has boosted those of us who could carry the genetic infusion and are using it to the best of our abilities to generate what we could say new possibilities on the remaining timelines that are the pathways out of the system. And that's part of the challenges ahead of us. So the first 5 videos I made here are still standing because the information I gave there is valid. But the perception of where we are taking that information and the ability to work with that information has changed. So this is what has changed. Those of us who got the infusion, we have been pushed into new possibility trends and possibility sciences and possibility solutions from where we can work with this new capacity that we have gained in the understanding of, okay, what are we going to do with the challenge? How are we going to find the solutions for that? So there has come with this package, this relooping, a strong focus on solutions. So I've always been a little bit of a fix-it girl. So this is also where I've taken the consequence of it and have shut down my HAL Advanced Psychotherapy page and turned it into a higher order systemic energetic awareness forum where I'm going to work with the next step of becoming what we call a galactic citizen. So the HAL Academy here, which this course is part, is now running on the new reality challenges that we have and how we're going to deal with that, how we're going to work with these new reality settings. And then it completes into the change maker material where we will try to find the solutions we can implement, the new sciences we can turn into something that can be, that is applicable, that can go in and actually transform our reality. And that the center point of that one, where we're going to do the changes via projects or via business. So this is where that's the solution. That's where we have taken, yes, I spent 10 years to develop the progression work, which we need to get to the point where we can activate our genetics. But for those of us who've been relooped, we are now embarking on the next set of the journey. So therefore you will hear that what I'm talking here is still the sciences, but I will also try to put in, okay, these are the solutions. And the solutions are always energy work in terms of when we talk about the effect of the energies from the sun, the effects of the energies from the earth, and the effects of the stargates, which are the other course material I'm going to work there, where I'll go to look directly on each and one of these parts of our solar system and say, this is how that is going to influence us. And we already touched ground with it in the transition science courses when we work with the rotundum and when we work with nutrition. We're already looking into the spatial energies and the components our planet's made of, because it's made of energy. Our planet is energy. It's pure energy. We're pure energy. If the sky is pure energy, the sun is pure energy, everything's pure energy. So this is where the focal point will be in the understanding of holographic networks, the patterns of change, and how we really work with energy in the manner of we're saying, yes, we're focusing on new types of businesses and new types of projects that are going to find solutions to continue the human population, the 30% that's going to do the transition. Probably only 10% will make it, but we have 30% possibility rate. And they will work with these solutions. And the ones that comes up with the best solutions will survive. It's that simple as like that, because if you create a project and or a business and you're transforming energy and you're doing your energy work and you're working with the higher order ideas, you are changing your energetic configuration to be part of the timelines that will lead out, that has that viability rate, that has that potentiality to do the transition. And this is where the new reality program courses come in as well, because there you learn how these programs work and you can figure out that we are part of creating these programs now. They have not been made because, as you know, the enhanced humans, they used the matrix of change and they did their programs, and it is playing out in the base program. That's part of it, the new type of governance, the new type of energy allocation. And we're here talking about, electricity and fossil fuels and renewable energy and these kind of things, which are now being put on hold because of the financial crisis. We are also talking about how to, whenever over the governments, what are they going to do in terms of politics? How is their future politics going to play out? And that's some of the things I will be probably make free videos on, because that's a political discussion about the fiscal year and how we're going to utilize the resources that we have. And that should, in my opinion, be out there for free. But here we're talking, and that will be part of the whole project YouTube channel, which I've now changed into being the whole Changemaker project YouTube channel, where I will discuss these political things and financial systems and what have you, because that will be part of those of us who are driving a business or are driving change or are driving a project. We need to know these things. So this is also part of it. We're saying, okay, now we need a new type of understanding of, yes, we have the base program perception of what's going on, but they're still playing within the old paradigms, and we need someone new that has the understanding of what's going on out there in the new paradigms. So we can still use the matrix of change to that, because that's a program that runs, even though they didn't push it to succession or success. The succession of it, the following, the continuation of it is still running, and that will run its course, and that will change our governments, that will change the way that we perceive our reality. And that's how the base program is going to phase itself out. And there will be a little bit of people here and there that will do the transition via these dynamics, because as they spark to life later on, they might catch on the three main timelines that has been engineered with the relooping. So there are always potentiality to do the jump into the viable timelines. And this is where you'll ask, with the Forerunner 2025 timeline, is that still there? Yes, but that's in the fifth density, or fifth dimension, sorry about that, in density 2. And that is part of what we call the remaining density 2 energies of our planetary setting. So it's still there, but it demands that we are in the fifth cycle and are able to work with the midpoint of the density 2 level in our high awareness. And that is also part of the projects that we're going on and working with now. But the relooping pushed me from the fifth cycle and solidified me in the new timelines, which are a conglomerate of the different cycles. So they are both third, fourth, and fifth cycle, but they are weeding out what they can from the third cycle with the new sciences, and weeding out and transforming the fourth cycle via the dynamics of the matrix of change. That's the foundation. That's the new base program they are running on, even though it didn't lead to what they wanted to. It's still the best, what we call recreational program of our reality that's running. So that's there. That's where we can say that's the base line for those of us who are doing this work. And then we are engineering all of the new stuff. And where do we get the potentiality to do so? Where are we drawing that information from? One of the things that are most important to understand is that, yes, in the beginning, as I talked about in the transition science, I thought that the sun would shift into density 2. Blah. It did not. It shifted backwards into density 1. And it's interesting because what difference would that have made for me back then in 2021? Well, you could say if I were on the high levels of the fourth cycle, or if then perhaps that would have been, or they were the ones that gave me that information, try to make me create programs that would keep us in density 2 or something. You never really know. So you can say, well, if the manipulation has been that, well, isn't the manipulation now that you are focusing on a density 1 sun because you have been relooped into recalibrating your energy system and aligning with a previous configuration back in time? I am centered. My main focal point in my configuration are centered 15,000 years back, during the last, or even further, but it's Ice Age. It's not the first Ice Age or the third Ice Age. It's the last Ice Age we had before the Holocene, before the last 10,000 years, where we have had this type of Earth that we are having now. Before that, it was all covered in snow, and that's where my focal point is. And I know when I'm there and I look up, the sun is a density 1 sun. it is a cold sun. So that's why our planet is covered in snow and ice. It's a cold planet. We have large amount of ice. The planet itself is dormant. It has been like that. It's a recalibration of some earlier disasters, including a nuclear war, which is interesting. So you can say, is that probably a sort of manipulation? And I'm asking myself that question. I'm looking at this. I'm kind of seeing myself from the outside, but I'm also inside of it. So what is going on? So that's some of the things I'm going to work a little bit with, but it's very, very heavily uploaded into my field, and it's there no matter how I kind of look around it. It's there all the time. It gives me a basic feeling and sensation of this is how the sun was then. This is how the sun is now. It has a purple radiation. So it feels very lunar, so that could also be part of it. So things have happened to us that have been relooped, and that's part of the process whenever we reloop. That shifts our perception field. It shifts our perception field into another focal point in the holographic network of our reality field, from where we perceive reality, ourselves, and others in a new way. And that has happened so many times. The last time we had this large relooping was actually in October 2017. So that is also part of it. 5-year cycle, relooping back. Everything that was supposed to happen there has failed. So they reloop us back into that 5 years ago, where there were potentialities in the work that I was supposed to do and others were supposed to do, to build what we could say these 3 timelines to be able to work into a solution of what we call the remainings of the 3rd cycle. There is a potentiality that they might be able to lift into the 5th. The ones that are still, yes, they are Atlantean, yes, they have the high level of infection, but due to the crystal and serum B technologies, they might be able to make it due to the shift in the sun that is now a density 1 sun, which is closer to their original configuration. So you could say density 1 sun is technically more aligned with the 3rd cycle type of solar radiation. And then we have the 4th cycle that is also running, and we have the 5th cycle. And this is going to be interesting when we talk about the sun. Because today it is completely gray weather. It is foggy, and it is cold, and it's October, and it's like our being in a dark world today. So today is the 3rd cycle sun. That's the timeline that's running today. Last week we had a lot of sunshine, and it's impossible for me to be in the sun midday between 11 o'clock noon and 3 o'clock afternoon. It's impossible for me to be in the rays of the sun. So that's the 4th cycle sun. That's where the devastation cycle kicks into the 4th cycle. That's the depletion mechanisms. That is where things are more or less falling apart. Today, I have the infusions of I'm not going outside. It feels like if I go out, I'll be chewed up by dark entities. So that's kind of how the energies are today. Last week, it was sunshine. It was beautiful, but it was if I go out, my cells will melt, they will disconfigure, and I'll develop cancer. That's the basic feeling I have. And then we will have days where we'll be in the 5th cycle. I don't know how that's going to look yet, but that's where we're going to really be effective when we talk about creating the 5th cycle dynamics, the 5th cycle sciences, and the 5th cycle configuration that allows us to shift into that one. So we have 3 possibilities now. At least those of us who have that configuration, that's what I meant with having that configuration that has been part of the 3rd cycle and the 4th cycle and completed both and are ready to go into the 5th. So we will be drawn back on days, and there we will focus our energy on what can we then do on these days, what will be our work. The body will be rested. It will not be so heavily discouraged, to put it that way, because the last week where we were in the 4th cycle and the energies there, it was painful. My body was aching. Fortunately, I have a kitchen that has a wall between. You see, the interesting thing with the place I'm living is that I have a complete north side and a complete south side. So on the south side, I have the sun coming in all day. And it's 2 floors. It's ground floor and first floor. And I'm not really capable of being on the ground floor a lot. I have the bedroom, which, I'm not utilizing because I can't sleep there because the earth energies. I have a wall that goes into earth directly. So it's dug down in the soil. So whatever's going on 3 meters down, so to speak, in the soil has access into my bedroom. So I can't sleep there. Then I have the first floor. I can be there down during daytime, but it's impossible when the sun goes down and until the sun sets, or rise up. It's impossible for me to be in the bedroom. It's like going into the underworld and just experience all the worst things ever if I'm down there during nighttime. So that's not going to happen. So it has to be a day room, and it is useful in summertime. It's cool in summertime. So therefore I can be down there during summertime. The days, probably what we could say next summer, I'll be there between 11 and 3 o'clock, because I can stay down there at these hours because that's where the sun is in zenith, and therefore the energies are its highest and the dark stuff will not surface in these hours. So I can probably survive down there these 3 hours. And then we have the first floor where I have the kitchen, where I can cuddle up and barricade myself. So I've changed a little bit the decoration of my kitchen, so to speak, making it a little bit more cozy and a little bit more nice to look at because I'm going to spend many hours there. And then I've moved. I literally lifted my queen size bed up the stairs and up to the first floor. That was just putting in there. I'm so proud of myself because that was fucking crazy. It was so seriously heavy and I managed anyways. I just went into the zone and I just got it up the stairs, and it was fucking crazy. Afterwards, just thinking, what the fuck just happened there? I just shifted into the fucking superhuman, in that very, very short period of time. It took me 30 minutes to get it up the stairs because I had to push it all weird sorts of directions. And then I finally figured out how to bend it, a queen size mattress, bend it with its kind of spring. It's not, it has metal inside of it. I can't remember what's called in English. Anyways, I managed to bend it because I realized this from IKEA. So I remember that it actually came being rolled together. So it can do that. So that's how I got it up the stairs. But I had to still pull it up because even though I bent it, it still had the resistance from the wall and the handle down the stairs. So yeah, it was difficult and I was sweating. The sweat was pouring out like waterfalls. Literally, that was interesting. Anyway, so when I came up and when I completed, I was drenched in water, but it was amazing that I managed to do so. And then I just been working to get my living room sorted. I even had to toss a chair that I had, which I actually enjoyed sitting in and watching the few movies I've had. But I'm not watching movies anyways because it's all about learning stuff now. We are on a tight timetable. So this whole kind of, I'm sitting down watching movies at night because I need to kind of zone out and not be in the thought processes. I'm not really working anymore also because there's nothing there that I'm looking at anything. Whatever's coming out in the entertainment industry is, I just watched one of the latest movies from 2022. I'm just kind of, what the fuck? It's, yeah. Anyways, I'm not going to label it or categorize it or anything. I'm just saying it has been one of my go-to things ever since I went from book reading, because I did that as a kid when I needed to rest and relax. I read a book. Put myself in some kind of fantasy land, and then I discovered that it had too huge an effect on my mind and I couldn't snap out of it. So I put the books on the shelf. Then I started to read science instead, and that was good because there I could do the same, but at the same time learn something. But it tired me out. Reading sciences, study sciences are tiring me out because then I have to go down into the frequency network, and that takes an enormous amount of energy from the body. It takes up to 20% of the energy of the body to process science information via the neural network. It takes an enormous amount of attention, and it literally comprises the cellular structure in a way that is unnatural to my system. So therefore it's highly energy consuming, and I get enormously tired. So then I lift up, and then I'm in the flow, and then I can lift up crazy mattresses up the stairs and rearrange my entire apartment in 2 days without even getting sore muscles. So this is where we have the effect of being able to lift our energies into density. We will have a higher energy rate to work from. We will learn how to resource allocate, not just out there in society. That's just a symbolic representation, but of what's going on, but also our physical energy is part of what we need to resource allocate. And I want to put that in here in this little bit of sum up, because that's important as well. It all ties into the text material anyways, is that from 2016 and until 2021, for me, that was where I worked with a lot of colonizing races, the LPF2s, the last hiccup of the density 2 energies to try and maintain it and preserve it. And with that, a lot of energetic parasites, a lot of full cycle issues, a lot of distortion energies, and all these things came up. And in that, I learned no hugging, no touching of other people, not touching groceries, money, anything else, because everything's imprinted. If I went down to the store, and this is where I joked a little bit about, it's a little bit OCD, this, isn't it? I almost felt like wearing gloves, because I knew if I touched something, my imprint would remain, and then others would be touch it there, and then I would be influenced by their energy field. So I learned to only touch the groceries I was going to buy and not touch anything else. And coming home and wash my hands and clear my work and clear the field of myself in the store, which eventually led to me not going to the stores at all, but just getting the groceries delivered, which were one of the positive things here in Denmark that happened during the corona, that became a possibility. It's not something we had as a culture in Denmark. We used it in Australia. There we could do so, but up here in Denmark, it has not really been a part of the culture to get groceries delivered from everyday or the daily groceries from the everyday shop, so to speak. We could get delivered from specialized shops or clothes or what have you, but not, and via the postal office, but not these delivering companies that directly drove out with your groceries, which is now common. So I jumped on board on that one. That solved my problem with the whole going into a place where there's a lot of energy and a lot of possibility for my imprints to get stuck or remain there, or not being able to clear out, and then someone else walk through my field, the remains of my field, and then I get whatever they have of energetic parasites. So that's some of the things that I learned in 2016. And that eventually came into physical manifestation during the pandemic, where we learned to stay at home and seclude ourselves and get our groceries delivered and all of these things. That was part of that physical manifestation of what I energetically already had discovered from 2016 until 2019. Where I was prepared for all of the side effects of, yes, the sun is now kicking off into its density 2 energies, which it was, as it's part of shedding off the last fields. You can say kind of the first 7 years it worked to shed off the vibrational or the radiation shields, and then the last 5 years it shed off its vibrational fields. So radiation shields first and then vibrational fields. And in that process, it was a very clear density 2, and it did activate all of the density 2 levels in our energy system, which is why we had this heightened level of energetic parasites and fourth cycle issues and old world order technologies breaking down, and all of these things that seen in hindsight explains why that happened. It's for me completely clear now where the sun is done. I kind of, oh yeah, that was these 5 years. That was what happened there. That is what unfolded. That's why we had this whole rise up of parasites and insectoids and all of the things that were part of the lower levels of the fourth cycle as the sun was shedding off its fields, and by that we're closing down on the levels and the networks, the holographic network from where these races exist. And therefore, because of that, they were pushed into the human body to try and sustain and survive. And they are still in the human fields, covering themselves up there. And then we had the attempt from the parallel universal matrix races and the transhuman agenda to counter that by giving different forms of painting blue, to avoid the word. We never know if it still comes up, and we are saying we're not allowed to say the word again, but getting people painted blue so that they would not be kind of infested with it, or these energies would not create energetic parasites in them, because that would have taken out the entire human population. So that was part of what happened between 2020 and 2021, where we had, or 2022, where we had the rampant running of the pandemic, right? So that was part of it. And at the same time, because of these low levels of force cycle, then underworld energies could really get up and nest into humanity, which they also did through different collapsing of the military projects in America, and Black Lives Matter, and all of the rioting, and all of the, which we're still having issues with. So this is also when we look into, okay, so the kind of, the battles were won, but the war was lost, to put it that way. So we're just buying time. But the matter of the fact is that the sun is now in density 1. And that's kind of, today, it's the purple radiation. So that's the third cycle energy, which I often call lunar. That's the third cycle lunar type of energy that's there. And as I said, I have these dark things coming into my field from time to time, and I need to clear it out and just block it out and evaporate it. So that's part of my ongoing double awareness today. I'm working, but at the same time, I'm also doing clearing work. So this is where you need to understand. So when we have the days where we have, as today, where we have the third cycle energies up, then it's not good to be close to the ground. It's good to be up in the air, so to speak. In the fifth cycle there, even though it's still connected to the third cycle. So that's the version of it, the old Atlantean version. That's the days where you don't go onto YouTube and look at stuff that has some dark promoter from Atlantean giving you the gene code sequence of that, because then you will be focused on that network. Then we have the days on where the fourth cycle energy is running, and that's the days where the sun is shining and where you have blue sky and where you feel the molecular state. It's hurtful to be in the sun. Seriously, sometimes I wonder, have I become a vampire or something? Because what's going on? I can't be in the sun. It's like when the sun touches me, I get nauseous, I get headache, it feels painful, and my eyes, I squint my eyes, I can't, it's very, very unpleasant. And then my body kicks in with clearing out that type of configuration. It literally goes into overheat. I thought I got the heat flashes because, I'm in my 50s, but you don't have heat flashes all day long when you're near the sun. And if they then go into the shade, then it dissipates. Well, it kind of goes with the same idea. You would say women that do come into menopause, they have this because of the adrenal that kicks in. And if you get hot, then it kicks off and your body can't regulate it. The thermostat of the body is whack. So it can't regulate. So you can say, well, it's probably part of that, but it feels different. It feels very, very different because of the way I'm getting hot, the way it's not just the torso that gets hot, it's my entire body. It's like, it is similar to menopause heat wave kind of flashes, but it feels different. So it works in a different way. So therefore, I just know, this changes things. Normally, I'm this kind of person. I am not very polstered. I am this very lean person. So normally, I have a tendency to, when it gets cold, I sometimes get cold too in the whole process of clearing my throat area and my thyroid. I had the tendency to get cold because I have a high metabolism. And then at the same time, I was not always getting everything I needed. And then I went to Australia and that changed. I got some infusions of reptoid genetics when I was in Australia. So I could be in Australia. And there I felt the opposite. This is where I want to go with this one. because I got the infusions of reptile genetics, which were not a good thing because that led to the underworld issues I was dealing with. But the positive side of it, what was the alteration that was done to me, was that I could be in Australia on the hottest hours of the day, even though if it were 42 degrees Celsius, it was extremely hot, and my friend was sweating and she couldn't be anywhere. I could be out midday exercising and I was not getting hot whatsoever. It was like I was just cooling down on my own. I had no feeling of it's enormously hot. I enjoyed being out like the lizards, lying in the sun, getting all heated up. I enjoyed it. It was really vitalizing for me to be out because of my reptile genetics. And then I was just be cool. It would literally be cool. I was cooled down by these different configurations. So I could be there, and it was tremendous. I loved it. And that was kind of, the sun up here in north is different than the sun in the south. And that time in between 2017 and 18 and 19, when I was in Australia, it was good for me. It was like, yay, I love the sun. And then when it came back up here and it was hot, then I enjoyed the sun as well, because it was a very strong density 2 sun we had at that time, as it was shedding off its shields and fields and what have you. Okay. Now we are in the opposite. We are in a density 1 sun. That's a cold sun. So my body is arranging itself. So when it does have the 4th cycle configuration, then because of the alterations that have been done to my molecular state now, it is not keen on the density 2 type of sun. It enjoys the density 1 type of sun, where it is cool, because I'm always hot now. I have bare feet now at this time. I am barely wearing, not that you ought to get all sorts of visions, but I do wear clothes. But it's like if it was summertime outside. I'm wearing clothes as if it was summertime, because I'm hot. I'm hot all the time. So my configurations has been altered to match the cold density 1 sun. So I'm producing heat myself. And then when the sun kicks in on the 4th cycle days, that's where my body goes whack, because it's not aligned with these sunny days, and we will have fewer and fewer of them. Or as the sun, even though it will shine, it will not have the density 2 configuration, because that will wear completely off from next year and on. And then even if it is a sunny day, it will still be a density 1, but it will shed off enormous amount of energy, which we talked about, proton energy, and that affects the cellular core, which I will come back to in the next video. So point being, with this all moving around, I have rearranged my home to these fluctuations of energy, to the different timelines, so that on the days where we had the 3rd cycle, I can be at that part of my apartment. On other days, I can, in the 4th cycle, I can go down to that room that is cool, and I can stay down there if I have to. Not that I prefer going down there, because the days where the sun is hot, we have the 4th cycle, and that means people around me are shedding off energetic parasites. And they, of course, jump from the street and into that room I got downstairs, because it's facing out a street and it's facing out the neighbors. Whereas to the north side, I have absolutely nobody. So that's kind of a little bit of a bummer. It would be nice if my bedroom had turned to the north, but then I'd had other issues due to the northern energies that are also having their own issues, which means that the whole north side I have rearranged by creating that little piece of garden out there, and arranged it in a way so it holds a specific type of energy. You call it feng shui if you like. I cleared the area. I maintained the area to get it free of 3rd cycle energies, because 3rd cycle energies go into chaos. So if you bring order to chaos, which is some of the things the Japanese have taught us with feng shui, they are 3rd cycle people, then you can keep up the green configuration that keeps things in balance. You use the Japanese understanding of feng shui and order of energies, arrange the north, east, south, and west, and the 5th element. And then you create that configuration from where you keep your home in balance. So that's why you keep the 3rd cycle energies in check. They will go into entropy. So if you keep your home nice and neat, and using the principles of feng shui, that means every single item in your home must stand on its precise position on that precise energetic nodal point where it creates harmony. So this is a tool when we talk about the spatial energies of your home, which we will, when we talk about earth energies, that's where Feng Shui will play in. And I got that information years ago, how to do that and actually align it with your horoscope, which was interesting. So I've got the tools over the years. Now I'll put them into play in these videos and we'll begin to work with this. So this is where we become solution based. This is not just where we take the sciences and explain this is what's happening. This is where we'll learn to work with the tools that is there and that has been given to us over the course of time. And how can we use that in the new configuration so that they align with what we could say, what can we take from spirituality and align it, such as, for instance, using crystals when we have the 4th cycle energies coming in from the sun when the sun is shining. The days where it's overshadowed, we have the 3rd cycle, there we'll use Feng Shui and other mechanics. And on the days where we have the 5th cycle energies, that's why we work with the new sciences and the new 5th cycle ideas that has nothing to do with physical manifestation of physical matters. It has all to do with your brain and your central nervous system and the perception field. So we begin to understand which days are we working with what. 3rd cycle, spatial energies. 4th cycle, organic vessel. 5th cycle, central nervous system. And with that one, we'll end this video. Thank you.